The boardroom lights were too bright for that early in the morning. White, clinical, unforgiving. They reflected off the glass table and bounced straight into my eyes like an interrogation lamp. I remember thinking someone should dim them. Then I realized no one planned to make this comfortable. My name is Morgan Hale. I was 34 years old. And 10 minutes into a Tuesday morning, my family decided I no longer existed. I was still standing when my brother cleared his throat. "Let's move quickly," Dylan said. "Not good morning, not thank you for coming in early. Just that." He didn't look at me at first. His fingers were tight around a stainless steel pen, knuckles pale. New suit, new watch, too new, still stiff in the shoulders. "The board has agreed to restructure leadership," he continued, "effective immediately." My stomach didn't drop. That came later. Some roles are no longer aligned with the company's future. I felt it then. The first snap, soft, internal, like a hairline fracture. I waited for my father to interrupt. He was sitting at the head of the table, hands folded, eyes down, same posture he used at church, same silence. Dylan finally turned toward me. "Morgan, your position is being eliminated." Eliminated. Like a line item, like an error. "You'll need to clear out your office by the end of the day." End of the day. The words landed clean. Surgical. I looked around the table. Outside directors stared at their laptops. One nodded too quickly like a reflex. Another scratched his jaw, eyes unfocused. No one spoke. No one asked what I had built. No one mentioned the contracts I'd salvaged. No one acknowledged the years I'd absorbed damage meant for the family name. My mother adjusted the cuff of her blouse. A small, precise movement. The pearls at her throat didn't move. That's when I understood this had been rehearsed. If you've ever sat in a room where your own family talked about you like you weren't there, like you were already gone, then you know how quiet it gets inside your chest. And if stories like this hit close to home, take a second to like this, subscribe, and stay with me. Because some betrayals don't shout. They whisper. And they leave deeper cuts. I exhaled through my nose. "Is that all I asked?" Dylan stiffened. He hadn't expected that. "This isn't personal," he said quickly. "It's business. Business." I turned to my father. "You agree?" He didn't look up. The board voted. That was the second snap. I nodded once, just once, picked up my notebook, slid my phone into my pocket. As I stood, my mother finally spoke. "Morgan," she said, soft and measured. "Don't take this the wrong way." I paused at the door. "There's a right way," I asked. Her smile appeared instantly. Polished, practiced. "You're emotional right now. Gaslight. Clean. Efficient." Dylan leaned forward. "You've always had trouble letting go." Letting go? I didn't answer. I walked out. The hallway hummed. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. My heels echoed too loudly against the floor. I hated that sound. It felt exposed. In the elevator, my reflection stared back at me. Calm, controlled, a stranger with my face. When the doors closed, my phone vibrated. A text from my mother. "Call me when you've calmed down." Calm down. That was the third snap. I didn't reply. By the time I got home, my hands were shaking, just enough to notice, not enough to spill. The house was silent except for the dishwasher cycling through its rinse, a dull mechanical hum, predictable, reliable. I set my keys on the counter. They made a sharp clink, too loud in the quiet. 10 years. That's how long I'd protected them. I'd rewritten deals at midnight, covered for Dylan's early mistakes, smoothed things over when Dad promised more than the company could deliver. I was the one who took the hits so the name stayed clean, and in under 60 seconds, I was disposable. My phone buzzed again. "Dylan, you didn't have to make a scene." A scene. I stared at the screen until it dimmed. Another message came in. My mother. "Your father didn't want it to go this way." There it was. The deflection. Always him. Never her. I poured a glass of water. My grip tightened halfway through. I set the glass down before it cracked. At 11:42 a.m., she called. I let it ring 4 times. "Morgan," she said gently when I answered. "We need to talk." I'm listening. A pause. She hadn't expected me to be this calm. You're taking this very personally, she said. I closed my eyes. You've always been intense, she continued. You tie your identity to your work. That work kept the doors open, I said. Another pause. Longer. We raised you to be strong, she said. You'll be fine. That sentence hit harder than the firing. You'll be fine. The phrase people use when they don't plan to help, when they've already moved on. That's it, I asked. She sighed softly, like I was exhausting her. You and Dylan are just different. He needs this. I hung up. No goodbye, no argument. The dishwasher clicked as it finished its cycle. Sharp, final. I stood there for a long moment, staring at nothing, feeling everything compress into something hard and narrow in my chest. That was the fourth snap. Not loud, not dramatic, just decisive. I picked up my coat and keys and walked out into the cold air, locked the door behind me. As I reached my car, my phone buzzed one last time. A voicemail transcription from my mother. Please don't do anything you'll regret. Remember, family is all you have. I sat in the driver's seat and laughed once, short, humorless, because in that moment with the engine idling and the dashboard lights glowing softly in the dark, I finally understood something she never would. Family isn't what they say when they're taking from you. And the last thing she ever said to me that day, the thing that finished it, wasn't meant to hurt. That's why it did. You'll always be our daughter, she said. But this company needs a real leader now. The next morning, I went back. Not to argue, not to plead, to retrieve what they thought was already theirs. The lobby doors slid open like nothing had changed. Same polished marble, same security desk, same bored nod from the guard who had watched me walk in every morning for a decade. My badge still worked. That detail stayed with me. If they had really thought about what they'd done, that badge would have been dead by sunrise. But they hadn't thought. They had celebrated. They had congratulated Dylan. They had told themselves the hard part was over. The elevator hummed as it climbed. I watched the numbers rise. 14, 15, 16. I didn't breathe until the doors opened. My floor was quiet, in the way hospitals are quiet. Too clean, too deliberate. The kind of silence that means decisions have already been made somewhere else. My office lights were off. I turned them on. White light flooded the room. Glass. Steel. Order. The chair behind the desk was pushed in perfectly, like someone had staged the space after my exit. Someone wanted it to look untouched. That was the first mistake. Morgan. I turned. Claire stood in the doorway, arms folded tight across her chest. My assistant for 7 years. She hadn't slept. I could tell by the way her mascara had settled into the corners of her eyes. They told me not to be here, she said. I didn't listen. I nodded. Close the door. She did. They're acting like you quit, she said, like you threw a tantrum and stormed out. I walked past her without answering and knelt beside the credenza behind my desk. The cabinet looked like every other built-in on the floor. Flush, seamless, invisible. My thumb pressed against the scanner. There was a soft click. The panel slid open. Claire's breath caught. Oh. Inside sat a single folder. Black, thick, corners worn, no logo, no label, nothing dramatic. Paperwork. I placed it on the desk and opened it. The pages were familiar. Articles of incorporation, amendments, lease schedules, signature blocks. Claire leaned closer, eyes scanning fast. It's not Halecross, I said. She flipped another page, then another. These are the warehouses. Yes. All of them, the profitable ones. Her mouth opened, then closed again. 5 years earlier, my father had asked me to optimize our multi-state leases. Taxes, liability, flexibility. His words. I'd suggested a separate advisory entity, a buffer, clean, legal, efficient. They loved it. The board approved it in under 10 minutes. No questions, no follow-ups. They focused on depreciation schedules and tax language. No one bothered to read the header at the top of each agreement. Northline Asset Advisory, LLC. Every major lease named it as the controlling lessor, not the family company, mine. They signed this, Claire said slowly. Every page, I replied. She looked up at me. They don't know. No, I said. They thought it was boring. I closed the folder and slid it into my bag. At 8:47 a.m., the first call came in. I ignored it. At 8:52, my phone vibrated again. A warehouse partner in Ohio, then one in Arkansas, then Mississippi. I stepped into the hallway to take the third call. Morgan, the voice said without preamble. We're getting emails from your brother. He's claiming authority over renewals. And I asked, and we don't move without your confirmation. There it was. I leaned against the wall, cool glass pressing into my shoulder. You won't be getting it. A pause, then a low exhale. So that's how it is. That's how it always was, I said. By 9:15, Dylan's name lit up my screen. I answered this one. What did you do? He snapped. Nothing, I said. That's not funny. I'm not joking. He was breathing hard. I could hear movement, papers, voices in the background, panic disguised as urgency. Apex is refusing to sign, he said. They're asking for documents I don't have. Correct. You don't work here anymore. I smiled. I never worked for you, I said. I worked beside you. That doesn't matter now. It does, I replied. Legally. Silence. Then his voice dropped. You're screwing the company. I pushed off the wall, walked back into my office. I built the company, I said. I just stopped pretending it belonged to everyone else. He started talking again. Faster this time. Louder. I ended the call. Claire watched me from the doorway. They're going to come for you. They already did, I said. They just missed. I packed lightly. Photos went into the trash. Not because I didn't care. Because I didn't need reminders. My laptop powered down. Secure erase engaged. The progress bar crawled forward. Methodical. Final. I removed the nameplate last. 4 screws. One by one. The metal hit the trash can with a dull clang. At 10:03 a.m., my phone rang again. Dad. I didn't answer. At 10:07, Mom. I silenced it. When I walked out, I didn't look back. The elevator ride down felt longer, heavier. The car descended smoothly, unaware it was carrying something irreversible. In the garage, I placed my bag on the passenger seat, started the engine. The dashboard lit up softly. As I pulled onto the street, my phone vibrated again. A voicemail from Dylan. This is getting out of hand, he said. We need to talk as a family. I laughed. Quiet, sharp, family. At a red light, another call came through. Unknown number. Morgan, the voice said. This is Reed. I just resigned. I closed my eyes. How many, I asked. All of us. The light turned green. I drove. They thought it was just paperwork, just forms, just signatures, just something my father had waved away years ago because it looked boring and safe. They thought power lived in titles, in board votes, in who sat at the head of the table. They were wrong. Power lives where the structure is buried, and by the time they realized what I had taken with me, the system they stood on was already hollow. The first call came before I reached the freeway. I ignored it. The second came as I merged into traffic. Same number, same urgency. I let it ring until the screen went dark. By the third call, my phone started vibrating against the center console like it was trying to crawl away. That's when I answered. Morgan Dillon said, breathless. Where are you driving? I replied. We need you back here, now. I smiled at the red light ahead of me. It had just turned. I didn't move. You fired me, I said. Remember, this isn't the time for jokes. It's not a joke, I said. It's a timeline. I ended the call. The Mississippi flashed between buildings as I passed downtown, wide, slow, unbothered. It had seen families rise and disappear long before ours learned how to ruin itself. My phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't Dylan. Hey, Morgan, the voice said, steady but tight. It's Craig. Apex, I answered without slowing. What's wrong? A pause. Forklifts beeped faintly in the background. A warehouse breathing. Your brother emailed us, he said. Says he's the new point of contact. Wants us to roll the master lease. And I asked, And we don't sign blind, Craig replied. We've built our routing around your models. Your entity is the lesser on record. There it was again, the phrase they kept tripping over. On record. They'll be sending you pressure, I said. Ignore it. So you're confirming you're still the authority I checked my mirrors. Changed lanes. Yes, I said. I am. He exhaled. Relief sharpened by anticipation. Send the renewal package. You'll have it before end of day. The call ended. 9 minutes passed. 9 long, quiet minutes. Then Dylan again. I didn't answer. The calls stacked, one after another. My phone stopped vibrating and just stayed warm. At a stop sign, a text preview flashed across the screen. This is serious. Dad is asking questions. You're putting people's jobs at risk. People's jobs. I laughed once, loud, empty. By the time I pulled into my driveway, there were 7 missed calls and 1 voicemail from my mother. I didn't listen yet. Inside the house, the air felt still. Too still, like it was holding its breath. I dropped my bag on the kitchen table, pulled out the folder, opened it again just to feel the weight of it. The phone rang. Dad. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again immediately. I answered this one. Morgan, he said, voice already edged with irritation. What are you doing? Working, I replied. That's not funny. I leaned against the counter. The dishwasher clicked softly as it cooled. It's accurate. You're destabilizing the company. No, I said. I'm revealing it. Silence. Then slower, more controlled. Come back downtown. We'll straighten this out. Straighten this out. I pictured the boardroom, the lights, the smell of lemon polish. No, I said. This doesn't have to be adversarial, he said. Your family. That word again, used like a bandage over a wound they caused. You voted, I replied. I adapted. He raised his voice. You're being reckless. That was the moment I knew he was scared. I ended the call. The voicemail from my mother played on its own a second later. I hadn't realized my phone was set to autoplay. Morgan, sweetheart, she said softly. Your brother didn't mean for things to spiral. You're hurting him. Hurting him. Not us, not the company. Him. I deleted the message. At 2:14 p.m., my doorbell rang. I didn't answer. Through the camera feed on my phone, I watched my mother stand on the porch clutching her purse like a shield. Her lips moved. She was talking to the door. I stayed still. She left after 3 minutes. At 3:02, Reed called again. They're panicking, he said. HR is scrambling. Legal doesn't know what to say. How many have resigned, I asked. More than they expected. Good, I said. At 3:40, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. Morgan Hale, a man said. This is corporate counsel. I leaned back in my chair. You're late. You're in breach of fiduciary duty, he said. No, I replied. I'm in compliance with my contracts. He paused. Papers rustled. You engineered this. Yes, I said. Years ago. At 4:10, Dylan texted again. Mom is crying. That one landed. Not because it hurt, because it was manipulative. I didn't reply. At 5:27, another call came in. Unknown number. I answered. Morgan, my mother said. No softness this time. This has gone far enough. I said nothing. You're embarrassing us, she continued. People are calling, asking questions. Good. This isn't how we raised you, she said. I closed my eyes. You raised me to build, I said. I did. You're acting vindictive. No, I replied. I'm acting accurate. Her voice sharpened. You're tearing the family apart. That was the line. I waited a full second before answering. You tore it apart when you voted, I said. She inhaled sharply. You always take things too far. There it was, the familiar dismissal, the final gaslight. I looked at the folder on the table, at the signatures, at the dates. I took it exactly far enough, I said. Silence. Then, colder than anything she'd said all day, my mother spoke the sentence that ended whatever was left between us. If you don't stop this, she said, you won't be welcome back. I felt nothing. Not anger, not grief, clarity. I already left, I said, and hung up. The phone went quiet after that. No more calls, no more messages. Outside, the sky darkened. The river kept moving, and somewhere downtown, a boardroom full of people finally understood what I had meant when I said nothing at all. Because when the phone stops ringing, it's not peace. It's aftermath. The first car pulled into my driveway at 6:32 p.m. Headlights swept across the front of the house, then cut. An engine idled, shut off. Another car followed, then another. By 6:41, the street looked different. Not crowded, intentional. I watched from the kitchen window, arms folded, glass of water untouched on the counter. My phone lay face down beside it, silent for the first time all day. That silence felt earned. The doorbell rang once. Clean, professional. I opened the door. Reed stood on the porch jacket slung over one arm, laptop bag in the other. 10 years in operations. He didn't smile. "Evening," he said. "We're all here." Behind him, people stepped forward. Familiar faces, tired eyes, determined posture. No speeches, no hugs, just nods. They filed inside quietly, shoes lined up by the door without being asked. Someone flipped the light switch. Warm light filled the living room, bouncing off hardwood floors I'd never thought of as a boardroom. 8 folding chairs circled the low table. Not elegant, functional. We sat. Reed didn't waste time. Non-compete only locks the Tennessee footprint. "I know," I said. "Arkansas, Mississippi, Ohio, wide open. I know." A woman from compliance leaned forward. "Your entity holds advisory authority, not operating licenses. We can move fast, but we need clean execution." I nodded, already staged. I connected my laptop to the screen on the wall. The logo that appeared wasn't polished. No flourish, just a name in clean block letters. Northline Systems, no family name, no legacy weight. The room went still. "This isn't a rebellion," I said. "It's continuity." I clicked to the next slide. 2 pilot sites. Little Rock, Jackson, midsize, undervalued, available. 6-month memorandums of understanding. Purchase options baked in. Equipment schedules pre-negotiated. Reed let out a low whistle. "You've been busy. I plan ahead." A data analyst raised a hand. "Routing engine. Already migrated," I said. "Private cloud. Access keys issue on execution." Silence again. But this time, it wasn't fear. It was alignment. I slid a stack of documents onto the table. Offer letters, titles, compensation. Base pay increased across the board. Equity grants effective day 1. Vesting schedules simple. No traps. One by one they reviewed. Pens clicked. Pages turned. No one negotiated. That told me everything. At 7:58 p.m., the last signature hit the page. Reed capped his pen. "We're live." I leaned back for the first time all day. Outside engines started, one by one. Headlights faded down the street. When the house went quiet again, it was a different kind of quiet. Constructive. The next morning, my calendar filled itself. Vendor calls, lease confirmations, equipment suppliers suddenly available. People who hadn't returned emails in years replying in minutes. At 9:03 a.m., Dylan emailed the entire company. Subject leadership update. I didn't read it. At 9:17, my phone buzzed. "Craig, Apex. Morning," he said. "We saw the filings." And I asked. He laughed. Sharp. Appreciative. "Clean move. I'll send the revised terms," I said. "Already reviewed," he replied. "We're ready to sign." By noon, the first contract was executed. By 2:30, the second. By 4:45, my old company's name appeared in my inbox for the first time that day. An RFP. Desperate. Poorly structured. Rates inflated like panic had written it. I forwarded it to Reed with one-line counter at premium. He sent back a thumbs-up emoji. That night, I slept for 6 hours straight. No dreams. No jolts awake. On Thursday, I stood on a stage. Not a big one. Not yet. A regional logistics symposium. Beige carpet. Weak coffee. Name tags clipped crookedly to jackets. I adjusted the microphone once. Behind me, the screen glowed. Northline Systems. No trace of where I came from. Craig introduced me. No mention of my last name. Just results. Metrics. Growth. I spoke for 12 minutes. When I finished, the applause was polite, interested, calculating. Afterward, 2 executives waited near the exit. then 3, then 6. By the end of the day, my inbox was full. The next Monday, we signed a national services agreement. Not flashy, solid, scalable. I watched the digital signatures appear one by one, each timestamp precise. At 11:04 a.m., it was done. I powered down my laptop. Across town, an emergency board meeting convened without me. I found out later. They argued, blamed, raised voices, lowered expectations. By Wednesday, headcount reductions were under consideration. By Friday, announced. I didn't celebrate. I watched. 3 weeks later, we moved into the new office. 8th floor, glass walls, river view, fiber lines installed overnight, desks assembled in rows, screens lit with live dashboards before the paint smell faded. Reed mounted the framed LLC certificate by reception. I walked the floor slowly. People were working, talking, building. No portraits of founders. No slogans on the walls. Just momentum. At 3:12 p.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. It was my mother. "Morgan," she said. Her voice was tight, controlled. "Your father is very worried. I deleted it." At 4:01, another message from her. "We didn't expect this." I smiled faintly. That was the point. By the end of the month, our revenue pipeline glowed green across every dashboard. By the end of the quarter, my former company's logo appeared in our system as a subcontractor. Support only, no priority lanes. When I approved the routing change, my hand didn't shake. That night, I stood by the window in my new office, city lights blinking below. The river moved the same way it always had, slow, indifferent. They thought a company needed a family name to survive. They were wrong. It needed structure and permission to move without asking. 6 months later, the headlines finally caught up. They didn't say my name. They didn't need to. The old company announced a strategic realignment. That was the phrase. Clean, bloodless. The kind of language people use when they don't want to say loss out loud. Key contracts not renewed, operations consolidated, 30% workforce reduction effective immediately. I read it once. Closed the tab. At 9:14 a.m., Reed stepped into my office with a printout still warm from the copier. "They made it official," he said. "Dylan's out." "Out," I asked. "Stripped of executive authority," he replied. "Advisory role only. Interim CEO from outside." I nodded. No reaction, no relief. Outside my window, the river moved the same way it always had. Slow, brown, unimpressed. "That many people?" Reed asked quietly. 212, I said. "Mostly ops and middle management." He exhaled through his nose. "That's brutal." "It's arithmetic," I replied. He waited for more. There wasn't any. That afternoon, my phone rang with a number I hadn't seen in months. I let it ring. Then again. On the third try, I answered. "Morgan," my mother said. She sounded older, not fragile, just tired. "We need to talk." I glanced at the national map glowing on the wall behind my desk. Red pins stretched coast to coast now, contracts pulsing, lanes alive. "I have 15 minutes, I said. She named a place, neutral, quiet, a hotel restaurant downtown that pretended not to know anyone's business. I arrived on time. She was already seated, pearls, cream blouse, hands folded neatly in her lap, the same posture she'd used in that boardroom. She stood when she saw me. "Morgan," she said, too brightly. I shook her hand, sat across from her. No hug. We ordered iced tea, lemon on the side. "Your father isn't coming," she said after a moment. "He's overwhelmed." Overwhelmed. I stirred my drink once. Clockwise. Precise. "We owe you an apology," she said. I looked at her. Waited. "The board decision was rushed," she continued. "Your brother acted without full understanding." "Understanding. That vote is recorded," I said. "So are the contracts." She nodded. "We know, but family isn't a balance sheet." I didn't answer. "Morgan," she said softly, leaning forward. "This legacy, your grandfather built it with his hands, and I scaled it with systems," I replied. "Both things can be true." She pressed her lips together. "You didn't have to take everything." I met her eyes. I took what I built. Silence settled between us. Heavy, polite. "Dylan is devastated," she said finally. "He didn't expect the market to turn on him." I almost smiled. He expected loyalty, I said. From contracts. That's not fair, she snapped, then caught herself, smoothed her tone. He's still your brother. I know I said. That's why I warned him. She searched my face. You warned him. In silence, I replied. He chose not to listen. Her fingers tightened around her glass. Sunday dinner, she said suddenly. Just us, no agendas. I leaned back in my chair. I'm still your daughter, she added quickly, no matter what happens in business. I considered that. I didn't stop being family, I said. I stopped being available. Her eyes flickered. Something like grief crossed her face, or pride, or calculation. We wanted continuity, she said. You wanted control, I replied. There's a difference. The waiter brought the check. I picked it up without comment and signed. As I stood, she reached for my hand. I let her touch my fingers, briefly. You've changed, she said. No, I replied. I've finished. I left her there, seated perfectly upright, pearls catching the light like punctuation marks. Back at the office, the floor hummed with low conversation and keyboard clicks. Screens glowed, dashboards updated in real time. Reed met me near the glass wall. Apex just expanded the agreement, he said. West Coast lanes added. Good, I replied. And Covenant wants exclusivity in 3 more states. Draft it, I said. By evening, the map behind me had shifted again. More pins, more flow, capital moving with quiet confidence. At 6:47 p.m., a news alert flashed on my screen. Former CEO Dylan Hale steps down amid restructuring. I closed it. The past had finally learned how to sit still. I walked the office once before leaving. People nodded, focused, calm. No one asked about my family. That felt right. As I shut the lights in my office, I paused at the window one last time. The city spread out below. Familiar. Changed. Behind me, the national map glowed softly lines stretching outward, carrying value in directions my family name no longer controlled. Blood explains who you're born to. Structure decides who survives. I turned off the light and walked out, leaving the river to keep moving exactly as it always had, only now the current finally ran my way.